good uppercut.
Dricus took a big shot there.
But it also
Good striking in combat sports is defined by a combination of technical precision, power, timing, speed, and strategic acumen. A proficient striker demonstrates impeccable technique, ensuring that each punch, kick, elbow, or knee is executed with proper form to maximise impact while minimising risk of injury. A stand-up fighter who epitomises good technique is Giorgio Petrosian, arguably the best kickboxer to ever live, and you can check out Pro Striking's breakdown of Petrosian on the channel. He demonstrates all of the above and more: timing, speed, power, precision, and strategy. He's on balance and very rarely gets caught out of position. He always has his feet underneath him. Dricus Du Plessis is a conundrum. He is a confusing and difficult problem to solve. He breaks a lot of rules when it comes to striking, and he does a lot of things quite badly. But strangely, this is why he can be so effective. He is hard to read, unpredictable, has unusual timing, and packs serious power. He poses the question, what is more important, good tactics or good technique? The blitz. The definition of a blitz is a fast, violent attack. When we think of Du Plessis striking, I'd say that is a very fitting description. A blitz attack in martial arts generally refers to a rapid, overwhelming assault designed to quickly close the distance and overwhelm the opponent with a flurry of strikes. The technique is essentially running forward, stepping through with punches and breaking stance. Left punch comes out, right foot comes forward, and vice versa. The primary goal of the blitz is to overwhelm the opponent quickly, put them on their heels, and disrupt their rhythm. When we talk about a fighter's shape, we mean a fighter's stance and position. A good boxing stance is the foundation of effective fighting, combining balance, mobility, and defensive readiness. The boxer stands with feet shoulder width apart, the knees slightly bent, and the weight is usually distributed evenly between both feet, allowing quick shifts in any direction. This stance ensures that the boxer remains balanced, protected, and prepared to launch or defend against an attack at a moment's notice. Now, this can change as a boxer throws certain attacks, but all the great fighters will punch and kick from a solid base and return to it quickly. They are rarely caught out of position. The blitz breaks the rules when it comes to fighting stance, but when done correctly, it can be an extremely effective tactic. However, the Dricus Du Plessis blitz is still somewhat clunky and incorrect. Dricus will be intercepted on a blitz at some point in pretty much every fight. Here we can see Dricus blitz and break his stance. He is effective as he catches the opponent by surprise, forcing them onto their heels, retreating with a high guard. The problem is the way Dricus is punching. He's off position, his feet sometimes pointing in the wrong direction. Think of a sprinter's start. The toes are pointing forward on both feet, as that is the direction the athlete wants the power to go. This is why a boxer will pivot on a right hand, turning the toes, the knee, the hip and the shoulder to form the kinetic chain, with the power going toward the intended target. Dricus breaks the chain with poor position of his feet and knee. This also makes him far more vulnerable if he were to be hit whilst running in, as he is off balance. The pros to this are Dricus executes the tactic correctly and catches his opponent by surprise. He has a big upper body, he's obviously strong, so if he connects on a punch, there's going to be weight behind it and it has some power. The cons are if an opponent times and intercepts him, they're going to catch him completely off balance and they're going to hurt him. The tactics are good, but the technique is questionable. When he's charging across the cage, it looks reckless. But in the same breath, one of his major strategic strengths is his unpredictability. Dricus suddenly charging across the cage at a man catches them by surprise, and the aggressive nature of the blitz can have a significant psychological impact on a fighter, causing them to become more defensive and hesitant, and become mentally fatigued due to the stress over the course of the fight. I would say the biggest advantage of a Du Plessis blitz is he excels in close range combat. His ability to fight effectively in the clinch at close range makes his blitz particularly dangerous. He's an excellent grappler with a strong top game and vicious ground and pound. If his opponent attempts to smother his onslaught or tie him up in a clinch to prevent punches, it gives Dricus what he wants anyway. The level change on Darren Till in the clinch was really good. So the blitz gets Dricus from A to B quickly. So he's not only effective with his striking, potentially hurting his opponent with a punch as he comes in, but it gives him a route to a takedown entry. He's happy to be in a grappling exchange. Dricus is a brilliant guard passer, and I can only assume he feels like a ton of bricks when on top. The Sao Paulo guard pass in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a method used to transition from within an opponent's closed guard to half guard or side control. As this is the pro striking channel, we won't be getting too into the weeds with regards to the grappling department. My blue belt knowledge will only stretch so far, but from my understanding, the Sao Paulo guard pass is best used in the gi by gripping the material to help gain leverage whilst you pull the opponent one way while simultaneously pushing down with your hips and knee the other way. This combination of forces should help apply enough pressure to open the guard. Dricus did this on a sweaty Rob Whittaker with no gi to grip. It was a clear demonstration of how big and strong he is. The man is a beast, leading with strikes. Dricus actually has a decent jab, particularly from southpaw. He has good timing and his technique isn't bad at all. His method of getting into southpaw leaves room for improvement. It isn't a rare sight to see Dricus get blasted whilst caught changing stance. It is never a good idea to break your base in front of a man who is in stance and ready to strike, and Dricus has a habit of doing just that. Going back to what was said earlier about a boxer punch from a good stance, Dricus can attempt to lead with a combination of punches with little to no setup, i.e. no jab or any sort of feint. This leaves him wide open for potential counters. For example, leading with an uppercut is a big no-no in conventional striking. Dricus' technique is also questionable as his base is trash. Here we once again see him leaning too far in one direction, not turning his feet correctly, and bringing himself away from the direction he is sending the punch, which reduces its power. He looks clunky and off balance. And once again, if he was to be intercepted in this moment, he's going to be in some trouble. Dricus' kicking technique is another ugly sight to behold. He kicks from too close, often stepping in, bringing his feet out of position and leaving him off balance, and he doesn't return to correct stance, which leaves him susceptible to counters. If a fighter intercepts a Dricus kick, he once again is going to be in trouble. The tactic of the technique is good. Leading with kicks from range is a good idea. And Dricus' delivery of the technique isn't the most important thing if he catches the opponent when they aren't expecting it or are themselves out of position. The danger, once again, is the intercept. Basically, the way to beat Dricus is to catch him as he comes in. The cage. The cage is the term we're going to be using to describe Du Plessis' high guard. Dricus' main form of defence is to protect his head with his forearms, pretty much at all costs. A conventional high guard in boxing will predominantly be utilising the gloves for protection when bringing the hands up to block and deflect punches. Boxing gloves have a larger surface area than MMA gloves, therefore offer much more protection. This means that the elbows can remain lower and tucked in to still protect the ribs, making this type of guard much more efficient. It protects multiple areas. Due to the lack of padding in an MMA glove, a fighter can find themselves making a choice: protect the head or protect the body, leaving an element of guesswork when predicting strikes. Dricus will always protect his head. He takes the chance that he might be hit to the body when he chooses to defend himself. He'll bring his forearms all the way up, the palms of his hands on the top of his head, with his elbows pointing forward. Here we can see Dricus backpedaling, breaking his base, with his sole focus getting something in the way of the punches, but leaving himself so off balance, he will still be compromised if something lands. It just isn't good defence. Dricus also has the tendency to crash into the cage and rebound off of it to follow it with his own strikes. Once again, this tactic can be fantastic if he catches the opponent by surprise. It also helps that Dricus is an incredible athlete and he can cover distance very quickly. Here we see Dricus use the high guard to defend himself. He backpedals and crashes into the cage, stance completely square, which is a striking no-no. But on this occasion he bounces off the wall and uses that momentum to crash into a blitz, with the right hand dropping Giles for the finish. The downside, once again, is if he is intercepted, as he was against Roberto Soldic in their second encounter, well, it could be good night Irene and he's going to end up with a headache for his troubles. Here we see Dricus using the same rebound off the cage tactic, only this time he's intercepted by a left knee into a backhand counter for the finish. No bueno, Dricus. When talking about proficient defence, the most important thing we'd be looking at is the athlete's composure. Do they look comfortable? When we watch Canelo ride with punches, he's blocking, making punches glance, making them miss, and he looks incredibly calm in the chaos. He might even pick a potential counter. His stance is still good, he's on balance. When watching Dricus fight for any length of time, there'll be plenty of instances where an opponent makes him lose his shape and forces him off balance. I think the key word of this video is balance. Dricus doesn't move his head, he doesn't really parry, he literally lives in the cage. The cage has the benefits of an opponent hurting their hands and fingers hitting into Dricus' forearms and elbows. He's putting hard stuff in the way. This is never a bad idea. It can also provide Dricus with counter-punching opportunities, providing he keeps his feet underneath him when he's opting to hide behind the forearms. The major downside to the guard, as already discussed, is punches will still find a way through. With Dricus caught running backwards in straight lines, it can allow opponents to string together extensive combinations as long as they bring their feet with them as they punch. Dricus' style is creating car crashes, and he is such a strong and physical athlete, if he catches a man, he's going to hurt them. He's a big dude and he backs himself in these collisions. He puts himself on the line and has the confidence to risk it for the biscuit. His gung-ho do-or-die style of fighting serves him well when combined with his physicality, strength and athleticism. His technique might not be pretty, but his tactics are effective, and it draws upon the interesting debate over which is more important, over good tactics or good technique, and which one a fighter should devote most of their time. Do you need to spend hours meticulously perfecting a technique, or get it just good enough and figure out how to apply it most effectively? Dricus' understanding of positioning doesn't seem to be great on surface level. Switching stances directly in front of a man who's in stance is never going to be a great idea, as discussed earlier. But if you are big, strong and fast, you might just be able to get away with it. If you can take a man's attention elsewhere, then you're going to be able to apply the tactic, even with questionable technique. Does making a technical error matter so much if you are athletic enough to get away with it? In Dricus' case, it seems to be working, at least for now anyway. As of this video, he is the current UFC World Champion, but I do believe the writing is on the wall for his potential demise. I think two major ways to beat Dricus are to put him on his heels, as he just doesn't cope very well, especially when his back's against the cage. The tactic of grabbing Dricus and having a feel for him, controlling his arms, has also been applied and used successfully. I think getting a sense of when Dricus is going to blitz and intercepting him with a strike as he comes in is also the way to go, but this requires incredible timing and positional awareness. It's not easy to do when you've got this big gorilla running full speed at you throwing windy hammers. It's easy for me to sit here and say it, but it's much harder to execute it under the bright lights. As always, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel. You can also follow me over on Patreon. The link will be in the bio. Pro Striking appreciates you more than watching Dricus Du Plessis blitz his way to a UFC world title.